Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, everybody. I am Kate Magdziuk. You can follow me on Twitter at FFBallBlast. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow him on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Give the show a follow at Locked On Dynasty on Twitter. Hit that subscribe button. And if you are new to the idea of us being on YouTube, don't forget to check that out. We live stream every Monday and Thursday. Goodness gracious.
Yes.
I will learn our schedule one of these days, but we get on the live stream. If you subscribe, you'll get alerts. So you never miss a live stream. You can ask us your questions. You can do all that cool stuff, but only if you subscribe on YouTube. So please check that out and leave those 5-star reviews wherever you listen to your podcast. We are headed into week 5, folks. We wait all year long, and it's the longest off season of all time. And then once we're in it, it flies. It absolutely flies. Marcus, how are you feeling heading into week 5?
Yeah, I can't believe we're already in week 5, Kate. We got some good games coming up this weekend, but instead of doing our traditional preview, we've got something different for you guys. We're going to kind of look back in the first 4 weeks, look at some of the top performers. And Kate, we're going to buy or sell if we believe in these players and where they're being ranked. So let's start first with some quarterbacks, okay? Currently, right now in standard scoring, Jalen Hurts is the quarterback 3 behind Patrick Mahomes, not surprising, Kyler Murray at number 2, Jalen Hurts at number 3. Are you buying or selling Jalen Hurts being a top 3 fantasy quarterback this year?
So for this year, I am absolutely buying that. So looking at Jalen Hurts and what he's done this season, we just saw a big a bounce back, honestly, in terms of what we should have expected from him when he took the field last season. Everybody was sort of harping on his low completion percentage, but that wasn't an issue for Jalen Hurts in college. He bounced back from 52% last season. He's up to 66.2%. That's absolutely attainable. But even more so, I think for fantasy, let's look at the fact that, we have seen some rough outings. This quarterback is 1-3. I think the game against your Dallas Cowboys is probably the best example of this. An atrocious game, 0 touchdowns, and still managed to have about 20 fantasy points. Like the key for this is it all comes down to what he can do on the ground. He's already racked up 226 rushing yards so far on the season. You gotta appreciate that. 1 rushing touchdown, and I think we're gonna have a few more to come. I'm buying for this season, but I will say the biggest concern for me in terms of Jalen Hurts and his dynasty value is he for real the quarterback of the future in Philly? And I don't believe that. So while I appreciate Jalen Hurts and his value for this season, the question marks at the position just drop him down in my rankings. He's right around QB 10 for me in terms of dynasty value, just because of those question marks.
So I think I really don't have too much to add. The only thing is I actually feel a little bit more confident about him in dynasty than you do, because is he the franchise quarterback for the Eagles? I'm not sure. The answer is probably no. However, I think he's certainly played well enough over the last 2 years to get multiple shots elsewhere, right? Like, he might not be a top 10 actual NFL quarterback, but he's certainly a top 32 quarterback, right? And when you're able to put up these kind of production and this kind of numbers, you're going to keep getting chances. So I know the Eagles potentially have 3 first-round picks next year. Maybe they make a move for Deshaun Watson. Maybe they draft somebody. But, like, Kate, would it surprise you? I'm just going to give you an example. If, like, the Steelers didn't want to draft a quarterback yet and they traded for Jalen Hurts for a year, and it's like, hey, let's see what we got. A little bit like Sam Darnold, right? Like, let's see what you can do in our system if we don't have to give up a ton to go get you.
I would really love that,
Okay.
actually, as a
Yeah,
Steelers
you know what I'm
fan.
saying? Like I just
Yeah,
see him getting a lot of chances in the NFL.
that is absolutely fair. All right, I'll take it.
Uh,
I like it.
You're all in. You're all in. All right.
All in now.
The next quarterback actually is the one I just mentioned, Sam Darnold. He is currently quarterback 5 right now in standard scoring leagues. He leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns, which is a little surprising, not just for quarterbacks, but for all players.
Bleh.
I'm not going to say Sam Darnold, are you buying as a top 5 quarterback, but are you buying him as a QB1 for the rest of the season?
I'm not, and this comes back just to my thought that there has to be some progression here in terms of his rushing touchdowns. 5 rushing touchdowns. I mean, week 1, rushed 5 times for -1 yards and still somehow came up with a touchdown. You cannot expect multiple rushing touchdowns from Sam Darnold each
He's
and
the new
every
Michael
week.
Vick. Did you know
Uh,
that?
he apparently is. I mean, the one thing that I have got to absolutely give him credit for, he's been super consistent. 300 plus passing yards in
Mhm.
3 of his last 3 games. You gotta love that. But my concern comes more so if we don't have that rushing floor, what do we have from him as a passer? Like week 3 against the Texans, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, but he had a couple of fumbles in that game that just happened to not be lost. I think there's been a lot of different things that are keeping him afloat in terms of fantasy production. Am I being a biased fan or a non-fan against Sam Darnold? Because I feel like he has to come crashing back down to earth. Like 5 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's not fantastic. Um, it's the rushing production that's keeping him afloat, and I can't imagine that's sustainable.
I kind of think it is. I think Joe Brady's offense is going to get not the rushing stuff, the passing stuff, like 300 yards in 3 straight games. I do feel like that's going to be pretty much the case here because he's got weapons. DJ Moore is phenomenal, by the way, just absolutely incredible. They really haven't even needed to use Robbie Anderson and Terrace Marshall. So when Christian McCaffrey comes back, I just see him being a guy that throws for a lot of yards, and the touchdowns are going to be a little bit fluky. They're going to be, some games he has 2, some games he has 0. I do think he's consistent enough with the passing yardage to still like him. So I think I am buying him as a QB1. It sounds like you are selling, Kate.
I am selling.
Okay. All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you guys about rockauto.com. It's a family business serving auto parts to customers online for over 20 years. They have everything from engine control modules and brake parts, motor oil, and even new carpet. Whether it's for your classic or your daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks delivered directly to your door. The rockauto.com catalog is unique and remarkably easy to navigate. Quickly see all the parts available for your vehicle and choose the brand specifications and prices that you prefer. Go to rockauto.com right now to see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, locked on in the How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com today. All right, let's get to a couple more. These are going to be a little bit quicker, Kate. Alvin Kamara. We talked about a little bit about him on the Monday show.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So my question though is, Alvin Kamara, he's currently RB15. Are you buying that he'll eventually be a top 10 running back by the end of the season?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think we are in panic mode. I mean, we're seeing Alvin Kamara actually get the usage on the ground that we have always wanted him to get. I think he's actually in for a big bounce back week. The Washington defense has just absolutely struggled. I think Jameis Winston's going to look great this week. Alvin Kamara is a running back that I am sending offers for all over the place.
Okay.
We've never even seen Alvin Kamara exceed 200 rushing attempts. He is currently on pace for 312. I think the passing usage, we're not going to see every week that he has 0 targets, but people are in a panic. And look at the first 3 weeks, Marcus. He was on pace for 75 targets. That's not the 100 that we're used to for Alvin Kamara, but that is perfectly fine when we are balancing that out with increased usage as a rusher. Give me all of your Alvin Kamara shares. Go trade for him because I think he's going to have a big week against Washington.
I agree. I think he's going to be just fine. Next one, Jonathan Taylor, currently RB20. Are you buying or selling that he'll finish as a top 15 running back this year?
Absolutely buying. Absolutely buying. He's getting all the opportunities you could ever want. He's still he finally got the touchdown last week, but he's still getting those red zone carries, still getting those carries inside the 5. They're just not translating to touchdowns. Much like Sam Darnold, I don't think that's sustainable for him not to keep scoring touchdowns. I'm absolutely he's going to bounce back, and I think he's another buy low. But you gotta nab him before he starts scoring more touchdowns because the opportunities are all there. We just have to wait for some things to bounce in the right direction.
The schedule does get easier. Now, it doesn't get easier this week at Baltimore, but Houston, San Francisco's fine. Tennessee, the Jets, Jacksonville. It should get better as the year goes on. Next one. Deebo Samuel is currently the wide receiver 3 in PPR leagues. Are you buying that he's going to finish as a top 10 receiver this year in fantasy?
Oh, I mean, honestly, with the rate that he is producing fantasy points, you have to imagine even if he slows down, he's going to be hanging there in that top production. Deebo Samuel just looks fantastic, and now they get an upgrade at quarterback, at least for the time being. Because Jimmy Garoppolo, he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to be out for a few weeks," and then you had Kyle Shanahan come in and say, "What? No, you're not." But with Trey Lance under, you're going to get some more scoring opportunities. You got to really appreciate all of that he's able to do after the catch. And that's all, all the stuff that we keep saying is not overall. Like, that's not a sticky metric, yards after the catch. But it has been sticky for players that are in Kyle Shanahan's offense because he's scheming to get guys in an open field. I'm buying. Shockingly, I absolutely am buying.
Yeah, Deebo Samuel targets the first 4 weeks, 12, 8, 10, and 13. And then he gets like 2 carries every week. So you're getting basically double-digit targets and a couple carries on the ground. You're going to be so incredibly safe. I agree. I think he's a top 10 receiver the rest of the way. This one.
And just for dynasty purposes, like, let's look at, I mean, this is a guy that I still don't think is being valued as a top 10 receiver for dynasty. Sure. This is a great buy high moment, I think, for Deebo Samuel.
This next one I know is near and dear to your heart. It's something I know you picked this guy in the first round when we were at the Fantasy Football Expo. It's Calvin Ridley. He's currently wide receiver 22 in PPR leagues. Did go 7 for 80 last week against Washington, but the touchdowns just aren't quite there yet. The targets are he's averaging like 10 yards per reception, which is not great. Are you buying that he's going to be a top 20 receiver by the end of the season?
Top 20, yes, I will buy. Everything about Calvin Ridley just screams like there has to be a bounce back. If you're in on Kyle Pitts, you still have to be in on Calvin Ridley here. Looking at what he's done so far, I mean, you mentioned the yards per reception, very off kilter for what he has done so far in his career. Just 9.4 yards per reception, career average 13.6. We know in his career he has been a touchdown machine so far, not a single season with fewer than 7 touchdowns. This isn't his first rodeo, but we've definitely seen a lot of hiccups here in the Atlanta offense. They get the Jets this week. I think this will be a nice bounce back game. But I mean, the offensive snaps are there, the targets are there, the opportunity is there. It's one of those things where I'm really hoping that we're going to see maybe a bump in his average depth of target. I think that could be what we're seeing, maybe change a little bit. That's gotta take a bump up. Yeah.
The good thing with Ridley is he's just getting so many targets. So the floor is going to be so high every single week. And maybe he doesn't have this incredible ceiling like maybe we thought earlier in the year where he's averaging 16 yards per reception and getting, 8 or 9 catches a game. Probably just not going to happen. But I think he's going to kind of be consistent enough to work his way inside the top 15. Last one. We're going to play a little game. Can you name the top 5 highest scoring tight ends in fantasy right now?
I'm going to go hot here. Travis Kelce.
Yep.
Oh, whew. Okay. Darren Waller.
Number 2. Yep. You're good so far.
TJ Hawkinson.
He is number 5.
Okay. It's somebody surprising. Dalton Schultz.
Rob Gronkowski, number 3. Dalton Schultz, number 4. I'll help you out a little bit. I actually think Gronk is like for real. I think he's going to be fine. I think once he comes back from his injury, he's just going to score so many touchdowns probably in Tampa Bay that he's going to be a top 5 option. My question for you, Dalton Schultz, top 5 fantasy finish this year for a tight end, buy or sell?
I am going to sell this one,
Okay.
though I do think that Dalton Schultz, I believe that he is going to have season-long value. I'm not quite buying that he is going to have a top 5 finish because this top 5 performance is coming off of the back of a very slow start for George Kittle. We've seen a relatively slow start for guys that we know just have super high ceilings,
Mark
like Mark
Andrews, right? No touchdowns yet for Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I'm expecting a little bit of a bounce back there, even if they don't quite hit what we've seen in years past. I think he's performed very well, 17.5% target share so far in this season, which is kind of bonkers considering the fact that we don't know who's going to catch the ball in any given week. We saw CeeDee Lamb have a down week last week.
Yeah,
I mean, Dak is definitely utilizing the tight end position pretty heavily, but I have trouble.
I'll help. Can I help you with this one?
Because of Michael Gallup returning, does that concern
That's
you
exactly
at all?
it, right? The Cowboys have had to completely change their offense since Michael Gallup went out with a calf injury. Now, he's not supposed to be back for a couple more weeks. The Cowboys have a week 7 bye, but once he returns in week 8, I just don't see Schultz getting as many targets as before. The Cowboys love to run the ball inside the 5-yard line. Like they have one of the top 5 goal line rushing rates. Some of Schultz's touchdowns have happened like on screens and making guys miss. So I think he's going to be a part of the Cowboys offense. I still think he's going to be a guy that you can play if you need a tight end, but he's not going to finish as a top 5 tight end. He's just not.
Let me give you a fun. I'm absolutely good with that. Let me give you a fun stat for Dalton Schultz and Blake Jarwin here heading into Week 5 against the Giants. I think Blake Jarwin might actually be the play this week if you're having to dive deep into your dynasty rosters and looking for a deep play. Giants rank 4th in fantasy points allowed to the tight end. They've allowed an average of one touchdown to the tight end position per game. But listen to the names, all right? Albert O, Ricky Seals-Jones, Lee Smith, and Juwan Johnson. That is each team's tight end 2. Could we see that trend continue this week with Blake Jarwin? I don't know. I might have Blake Jarwin in a couple of leagues just tossed in there if I don't have any solid options whatsoever. I do have a few leagues where I'm just where I have my Logan Thomas's, he just went on the IR. You gotta dig deep here. There might be something there for Dalton Schultz or maybe Blake Jarwin this week. I'm just saying.
I just will say Blake Jarwin has scored. I'm looking at it right now. 7 touchdowns in his career. Okay. 5 of them have come against the Giants. So he has been a Giants killer throughout his career. So I think this is somebody who is a pretty decent option if you want like a cheap guy in DFS or you need somebody in some flex league or 2 tight end league. I think he makes a lot of sense. All right, let's take one more quick break so I can tell you guys about Bet Online. You guys know Bet Online. BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Don't forget to use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Kate, it's time. We called this segment Promotion Commotion last year. I think we called it What the Heck Flex this year. We just change it all the time, right? So these are some guys that are deep on your, on your benches. Some of these guys on your waiver wire that you could start and play this week if you need to one. I've got a name if you want me to go first. Another tight end. Mo Alley Cox. He's owned in about, 0.5% of ESPN leagues right now. He's going up against the Baltimore defense, who has allowed the most points to opposing tight ends this year. He had 5 targets last week. He was 3 for 42 and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, you're chasing points a little bit, but I do think he's going to be involved. So that's one of my guys. Who do you got?
All right. I did give away one of my guys a little bit early there. I gave away my Blake Jarwin. So for real, take a look at Blake Jarwin. But another guy I want to shout out, I do want to go back to Marquez Callaway. Going against the Washington defense, six most fantasy points to the wide receiver position this year. Again, we've seen these ups and downs for the New Orleans Saints and what they've been able to do on offense, but this Washington defense has been so bad, Marcus.
Yeah,
they have been terrible. They were one of my favorite fantasy defenses heading into the season, but guess what? I've dropped them in all of the leagues that I drafted them in because they are not good. They're allowing everything through the air. I think this could be a huge bounce back game for Jameis Winston and company. I feel comfortable starting pretty much any of these, promoting any of these New Orleans Saints wide receivers if I'm in a pinch because the matchup's just absolutely perfect.
I've got one. What about Alex Collins on Thursday night against the Rams? 10 carries for 44 yards and a touchdown. Last week, he also added 2 for 34 in the receiving game. I don't know if Chris Carson is going to play. It sounds like there's a pretty serious neck injury. He did not practice all week. I guarantee you he's available on your waiver wire right now. Somebody to keep an eye on. And I always like to finish the show with an absolutely disgusting play that nobody would ever think of.
Oh,
right?
I got one.
Go ahead.
Okay. This is really gross. This is contingent on double checking to see who is active in the wide receiver core for Tennessee. But Jeremy McNichols, running back for the Tennessee Titans, one of my favorite deep plays in full PPR leagues. Without Julio Jones and A.J. Brown last week, McNichols ran 32 routes, which was the 5th most among all running backs on the week. Finished the day with 8 catches, 74 receiving yards. If the Titans remain down at wide receiver, if we saw A.J. Brown return to practice, Julio Jones, I believe, still out. Is that correct?
Yes.
If they're still down at wide receiver, I think we can look at a really nice week for Jeremy McNichols. They've allowed the 7th most catches and 6th most receiving yards to the running back position. That is the Jaguars, their week 5 opponent. So is that disgusting enough for you, or do you have one better?
I got one worse, I promise. Are you ready? All right, so the situation's actually not bad. So I'm gonna just give you a situation before I tell you the player. This receiver is going up against the defense that has allowed the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing receivers. So that's fantastic, right? Okay. This receiver ran 41 routes last week and is actually expected to have a bigger role this week. And if you are in return leagues, this guy can also help you there. What about Tavon Austin for the Jacksonville Jaguars this week? It's absolutely disgusting, but he's probably going to be the 3rd receiver on a team that uses a bunch of 3 receiver sets. Wow. I don't know, Kate. Maybe against the Titans who can't guard anybody. Would it shock you if he caught one long ball in this game? And all of a sudden it's 1 for 55 and a touchdown. It would not shock me.
No, it would not shock me, especially Tavon Austin, he's something that we've wanted to be a thing for so long.
Listen, if Cordero Patterson could be a thing, Tavon Austin can absolutely be a thing, right?
Yeah.
The same draft class.
He can do things after the catch, and the Titans cannot do much after opposing defenses catch the opposing offenses catch the ball.
They can't do
you know
anything.
what I'm trying to say. Yes, they just sit there. That feels like an appropriately disgusting promotion commotion candidate for this weekend to leave off as we head into week 5.
If Tavon Austin scores a touchdown on this week's podcast, or this week, I'm gonna buy.
What do we do?
I'm gonna buy a Tavon jersey, and we're gonna put it right behind me. That's just what we're gonna have to do, right?
I think that's a must.
That's a must. All right. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on YouTube. I try to build that YouTube channel up, so please click, subscribe, watch. You can follow Kate at FF Ball Blast. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. Enjoy week 5. We'll see you guys here back on Monday.
Bye.